Hello. So it's been a while, understandably so. I haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh in quite a while, but with the return of DN basically in the form of Duelingbook, having a more exciting list to be playing with, I decided to kind of re-enter the world of online Yu-Gi-Oh, and this is kind of the deck that I've been playing. Um, However, this isn't really the point of the video. The real point of the video was to respond to Dzeeff, who made a video about what cards were great in middle school. This deck clearly would wipe the floor with any middle school Yu-Gi-Oh player from back in the day. But I just wanted to talk about the first deck that I ever took to a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. It is very middle schoolish. It is essentially the dragon structure deck with modifications. Well, I guess the only real part of the dragon structure deck that I kept was Mass Dragon and then the Armed Dragons. Because back in the day, I feel like this was the most powerful interaction. Like, setting a Mass Dragon turn 1 was pretty much a game for most of the people that I played against. Yu-Gi-Oh was like insanely unpopular at my elementary school and middle school, but there were definitely people that I could play with elsewhere. Really like Despair from the Dark for whatever reason. I think the art was just really cool looking to me. It kind of reminded me of Call Haunted from the television show. And the effect surprisingly didn't come up a whole lot, but it could have. Vampire Lord was very popular back in the day. I thought that it worked off of Monster Incarnation. I was told the first tournament that I went to that didn't, and it made me very sad. Because opponent's card effect is a keyword there. But it is a very cool card, and it was like my powerful finisher or whatever, basically. I played a lot of cards just because they had high attack points. Some of their effects are pretty awful. Golem Sentry and Cross Counter was a combo that rarely came up. But that was the whole reason that both those cards were in the deck, was that so that could happen, and that was kind of funny. I really like this card. It's probably pretty bad, but especially since Cyber Dragon was a card during the time that I was playing, so this may have not been nearly as good as I thought it was. I always loved DD Warrior Lady, so it had to be in there, duh. And then Wicked Worm Beast was a combination with Creature Swap, and so was Mass Dragon, that I thought was very clever. Then I really liked Equip Spells for whatever reason. I remember all three of these, and I might have played more, but I mean, you had to get over your opponent's big monsters somehow, so that was a good way, at least in my opinion. None of these other cards are very interesting to talk about. Tribute to the Doomed was one of my only ways of getting rid of my opponent's monsters, so that had to put in some work. Then I really liked Reload, obviously. When you're playing with so many janky bad cards. And at the very first tournament I played at, it kind of was. I don't really remember a whole lot about that day, other than the fact that a regional was happening simultaneously, that I learned like 2 weeks later when I returned and there were much better people there. So I played against just kind of like random piles of cards, I think. Like, my opponents weren't really doing anything that was like crazy over the top. So I managed to get a 3-1 record, and then I moved into the top 8. And apparently somebody went to the local after dropping after the first couple rounds of the regional. They were playing Cyberstein FTK, or OTK rather. I was playing a relatively fair game. And then all of a sudden, my board would get giant trunated. He'd activate Cyberstein, and Megamorph for limiter removal, and attack me for a game. And I was like, huh. this game kind of sucks. Wow. And it's just like, how do you like stop this? And he was like, well, it might not, it isn't really that consistent. Your deck's kind of just slower. And I was like, oh, my deck isn't slow. It's great. No, sad. So that was my very first ever trip to locals. This was in around about 2006. I think it was in like the springtime. So I was like around 12 at this point. So didn't have the greatest grasp on strategy ever. But it was definitely a little bit better than just playing big monsters and stuff like that. But not by much. So maybe I'll make more content. I'm not entirely sure. Hopefully. But I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.